I just lost it. And he said he took my scans to many other doctors in his office. Like, please tell me you can see something here that I'm not seeing, that I'm missing. So I do not have to tell this girl that she's done. It took me a while to wrap my head, to be okay with it. And who really ever gets a second chance to experience firsts for a second time?
All right. Brooke Ence.
Okay. Yep.
How do you take your coffee?
Black.
Cold
usually.
Or hot?
Preferably, I like hot in the morning.
Okay.
And iced coffee. Plus, it's, St. George right now is 105. So I'll have 1 cup of black coffee in the morning if I'm up early enough. But if I'm past that point of, I guess, starting to get hot outside, the house is starting to get heated, I want it on ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 cup of coffee a day. That's it?
1 to 2.
Okay.
I used to drink a lot more.
Like movie things?
Yep. Well, before. Okay. So, I love coffee.
Yep.
I've never drank it for caffeine. Like, people are like, oh, I need a coffee. I just really enjoy good coffee. I love the taste. I love the whole activity around it. I think that it's very relaxing, or it can feel like you take a pause in your day, even like in time, when you just stop and go get a coffee. Relax, you can kind of like check everything at the door. Like, for some people, that's the gym. For me, not the gym when it's been your job. Right. So I love going to get coffee or just taking a break. But right before I went and did Wonder Woman, I loved waking up early. I'd make a pot of coffee. I'd probably drink the whole pot, maybe go and get an afternoon coffee with friends after we worked out. And we were in Italy shooting on site. For Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And we were drinking a lot of coffee. So when we were sitting in full kit, we'd be out there, 8 a.m. till 5. If not before that, you're in a makeup chair at 6 o'clock in the morning, is how we were doing it almost every day. They may not even use you. So I can't work out. I'm in full kit, and they have like food and coffee. Right. So I'm trying to not be eating the food that they have available for you because it was garbage.
Right.
So when you're bored, you'd have a coffee, and it's all espresso, really, really dark. And I swear to you, I came home and it felt like my stomach couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just from drinking too much of, Italian coffee, I guess.
I went to work for a company once where there's coffee readily available, and I might have abused it a lot here for a short period of time. And I was like, you know what? Morning, afternoon, cutoff time, that's it. So I had to rein it back in. I understand. Yeah,
I walked in downstairs. You asked if I wanted, anything to drink. And I thought like, oh, I could smell the coffee. Oh my God, it smells so good. Sounds really good. I'm here. And I looked at the time and I'm like, no, I can't do it. I've been trying to, I don't sleep that great. So,
I'm aware.
Cutting the caffeine.
Yep, same. I have to cut it off a certain time of day. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm thinking, why can't I sleep? I'm like, you're an idiot. And you had a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock.
I went through one of those phases when I was training for powerlifting, and John Welborn was like, he did all my programming. He's like, here's the pre-workout I want you to drink. So it was a double shot of espresso, 1 scoop of branched chain amino acids, and a scoop of whey protein in ice. And you drink half of it before you worked out, and then you drink, the rest was intra-workout. And this is when I lived in Seattle, and we were training at CrossFit Marysville at 5 in the afternoon. And I was like, man, I cannot sleep at night to save my life. And then all of a sudden it just dawned on me, I was like, I'm an idiot. Oh my God. I'd find myself sitting there staring at my computer at 1:30 in the morning. I was like, this is my fault. I know what this is now. So, but anyway, so where did you grow up?
Southern Utah in St. George.
St. George. Okay. Any sports in high school?
Yeah. Well, I mostly danced in high school, but I guess all grown up, I played soccer. And then I played softball. When I played softball, I did gymnastics. I swam on the swim team, and I danced. And then as I got older, all those things take more time. So over time, my mom started taking me out of the things that clearly weren't, I guess I wasn't giving my 100% effort. So over time, I just started weeding out the extracurriculars that weren't going to be something I wanted to do for a long time. And then I ended up just dancing. So through high school, I think the last year I played softball was 9th grade. And then I stopped playing after that because I just couldn't make it to all of the practices. So I didn't enjoy not being able to play because I wasn't practicing. So I just stopped.
Do you have siblings?
I'm the youngest of 4.
So there's a lot of running around for mom too.
Oh yeah, it was
throughout the week.
when I was growing up. And we were all very busy. My brother, football, wrestling, weightlifting. My sister, swimming, and then did weightlifting when she was younger. And then my other sister was swimming, and she played softball, but she quit earlier on. My mom played. My aunt was an incredible softball player, and my cousin. I mean, Southern Utah, though, now you're seeing some more summer sports. Like soccer's always been, a big summer sport, but it's in the past maybe 10 years has really become very, very popular among all of like the different age groups down in Southern Utah. And my sister's kids, all of them play soccer, but I played softball. My sister swam. I swam when I was younger, but I didn't take it as serious as them. I wasn't as competitive, especially within like practice, like the time you have to put in, obviously training. I wasn't as interested.
Swimming is brutal.
Oh yeah.
It's brutal.
My sister swam on the junior Olympic team and when she was in high school, and they went over and competed in Ukraine.
Oh wow.
No, was it Ukraine? Yes. Somewhere.
One of those places.
Yeah.
So you danced in high school.
Yes.
What about after high school?
I went to the University of Utah, and I was a modern dance major.
Okay.
I did that for a couple of years, and then when the economy was like 2008,
Eight's when it started. Yeah, I was right there. Yeah.
I changed my major just because, I enjoy dancing. I love it. I do it because I love it. There's no money in it. There's no like longevity. And I had no interest in owning a studio or teaching. I just wanted to do it. My big thing is like I grew up singing and dancing. I used to sing at the rodeo. I sang the national anthem for all my siblings. Like they're all older, so every wrestling tournament, every football game. Cool. I wanted to do Broadway and dance and sing, but I loved sports too. I love being athletic, and my family have always done big in the outdoors. So, boating, wakeboarding, hiking, hunting, camping, all that, and then of course, anything the boys were doing, I wanted to do it.
You got to hang.
Yeah.
What did you switch your major to?
I went into just mass communications, and then I did not graduate. I moved to California. Decided I was...
What year was that?
I moved to California in 2012.
Okay.
I want to say. Yeah. And I went out there, and I lived there for a year before I even decided that I was going to try and, follow a training program to compete in the games. Prior to me moving there in 2012, I guess really without getting into details, I started doing CrossFit at Ute CrossFit with Tommy Hackenbrook. And I was on the team, and our team qualified. That was the last year they had sectionals. So the last year they did sectionals, which I think was 2011 or 2010. 2010. Qualified. I did not compete at the games that year. And then shortly after, moved to California and was just doing CrossFit and training. But I went with my boyfriend at the time and just trying to find a job. My first job living out there, I was washing towels at a hair salon. That was my first job.
That sounds wonderful.
And slowly over time, I then started, I was training all the time, but I had never really had interest in being a coach. But a lot of that comes from prior to CrossFit, getting into more weightlifting and just like conventional training. I just had no interest in being a personal trainer, which I think being a CrossFit coach is just so much different than being a personal trainer. And I think probably a big part of that is the community aspect. And, you kind of, as a CrossFit coach, and I can't speak for all of them, and there are a lot, and there are good ones, and there are terrible ones. Right. So I'm talking about the good ones. They really do continue their education and then encompass so many things. Like they're helping you with personal life shit. You become like a therapist, but you're also doing nutrition. You're doing training. You're doing mobility. You're being able to help them with so much more that I think that I hadn't experienced, being around personal trainers when I was younger, when I was in college, that were encompassing all of those things. And it didn't interest me as much. Plus, when you went to Gold's Gym back then, it was like, as soon as you walked through the door, it was all about the sell. It was not about progress.
Right.
It didn't mean that you didn't care about progress. You did. But the most important thing was we need to get them to buy And I was like, I'm not a salesperson. Like, I'm not going to try and sell people on it. And so I kind of gave up the idea of coaching. And then when I was living in California, I was just so sick of trying to find a job and what was available out there. And I kind of decided, I started working at a coffee shop. I also fell in love with coffee out there. Being a barista, I could do that.
Nice.
For sure. But I started coaching. So I took my L1. I started coaching at a gym. And
What gym was it?
I was at, oh my gosh.
We can circle back.
We'll have to circle back because it was not CrossFit Santa Cruz. It's
West?
CrossFit West.
CrossFit West, yeah.
West Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
CrossFit West.
Also known as CrossFit West, yeah.
Yes. I love it. Baker knows this because Baker, I have known for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Tommy Hackenbrook. So at the time, all this is going, the last year of sectionals was 2011. At the time, I was in New York and we had started a drink company called Kill Club. And so Tommy Hackenbrook was on our advisory board. And he's like, we were looking for, this is during a time when social media, when like influencers were super important. And they worked, and it was a great tool to have. And he was like, he's like, I've got this young girl. She's relatively new. She's rough. She needs some more coaching because you were unrefined at the time. We should talk to her. And at the time, SFH, which was out of California, was giving you like some free protein. And we were like, he's like, let's see her. And he shows us like, yeah, she's great. So we were like, Killcliff at the time was your first paid sponsorship.
Yes.
And so I remember 2000 then regionals and sectionals and then regionals, and then you made it to the games. And also I've been a part of her journey directly or indirectly since the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Competed, remember the, was it the Battle of the Benchmarks in Oklahoma City? I picked her up at the airport and she was like, you were not feeling well or you were hungover or something.
I think I was hungover. Probably just,
you walked into the gym and just laid on the floor. You're like, ugh. So, yeah, I've seen the best and the worst of Brooke Ence. Like, yeah, so we've got quite the history. But when you were on Utes team with Tommy, and Tommy Hackenbrook started CrossFit, Ute CrossFit, and he played linebacker at University of Utah. Last year was when Urban Meyer was coach. They went undefeated and won the Fiesta Bowl. Great guy, super knowledgeable, awesome guy. And that's how we became friends, was through Tommy. And then, so what year did you qualify for the games? Yeah.
2015.
What happened? 2014 regionals?
So 2014 was my first year competing individual.
Right.
I started working with Killcliff when I was doing team with Ute CrossFit. And then I prepped for 2014. So I was watching the CrossFit Games 2013. And, at this point, I mean, I've done CrossFit. I've done it as team competition, just never done it as an individual. And in my mind, I've just moved. I mean, I was in Utah. I was in Salt Lake. So I was right here. I trained with Tommy. My gym was right there. And that's who I trained with. So when I moved, it was like, I'm just going to stay fit and work out. And I didn't really know anybody out there. And watching the games in 2013, they crushed it. That was the year when I think the final event for team was all the girls. And Tommy went 150 wall balls unbroken. Was George Conway? Yeah, Adrian Conway.
Adrian Conway was standing there. So it was, you had
Mike Caju.
Three targets side by side. And each one, you had to do 50 wall balls on this one. And then you moved to this target. And then you moved to this target. And Tommy started the 50 and he did all 50. And then he did the next 50. And Adrian Conway's like standing there like, whenever you're ready to let me sub in. And Tommy did all 50 unbroken. It was pretty awesome. And they had just absolutely dominated.
Oh, yeah.
That year.
They were an incredible team.
Yeah. That was like the first super team. And then you had this whole thing started where like they kind of loosened the rules. And like some of those people were driving like 3 hours to train with the team. Because there was like, you had to make like mandatory like attendance requirements and stuff in the gym. And there was all that flub about that. People losing their minds. When you started CrossFit coming from a dancing background, like what were your strengths and weaknesses? Like what was easy for you? What was hard? Because ultimately you were strong as shit. Like I remember when what'd you clean at the games on that ladder? You ran the ladder. 232. Yeah. And you won, I think you won that event. Yeah.
I won that event and the snatch ladder.
And what were your strengths and weaknesses coming from dance? Like when you started?
Well, I guess like a weakness for me was just gaining skill, like gymnastic skills.
Yeah.
I always thought my worst two movements, especially when I was back then, ring dips for volume, for capacity.
Right.
And
That's because
then-
females'
and-
triceps are generally weaker. That's probably one of the weakest muscle in a female is the triceps.
I mean, mine were weak. I mean, still are.
Well, it's funny if you think about it.
Technique. You need the technique.
No, but it's funny. So gymnastics is, as it applies to CrossFit, gymnastics is a skill that gymnasts spend their life learning.
Yep.
And in CrossFit, doing a muscle up, I think Jeff Tucker put it into perspective. So you start on the bottom of the rings and you pull up here. That is how you start a gymnastics competition.
Mm-hmm.
You get no points for that. That's like walking up to the starting line. But in CrossFit, it's like, oh, back in the day, it's like, oh my God, she's got muscle ups. Holy shit, like this is super impressive.
Well, how long did you do gymnastics when you were younger?
When I was young,
Yeah.
just for a few years, a couple years.
I still think that like during the developmental phase as young humans.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah, when you meet somebody that did gymnastics, even if it was for a brief period of time or the full thing, they are strong for the rest of their life in a way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the impact on the joints or whatever your movements were or sport,
It
that
is.
portion.
It is. Gymnastics is brutal on the body. Like the training that competitive gymnasts, youth competitive gymnasts do it's savage.
Yeah, I've always thought that like athletes that can become like in CrossFit, so competitors that are some of the most ruthless competitors came from a gymnastics or a wrestling background.
Yep.
I used to say that all the time
Yep.
because wrestlers are fucking crazy. And that's the thing about CrossFit. Like you can be an incredible athlete, very strong, skilled, everything. But if you can't compete, it's a mindset thing. Like there's people that, and friends of mine that I've known too in the past, but like if you show up to competition day and something goes wrong and you don't have just like the mental fortitude
Absolutely.
to like stay in it, you let yourself, question it for a second or get a little upset and not be able to get back to where you need to be mentally. I mean, everything is like seconds. People are seconds from just, going to the top of the leaderboard or the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in both of those disciplines, the training is intense, right?
Yeah.
I've known gymnasts. I wrestled as a kid. I wasn't good, but the other wrestlers that did, they become hardened humans, and some of that is mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make a mistake, it's coming back, I think, is the biggest thing. When you have a little blip or you're like, fuck, and you're looking for a 1/10 of a second, it's continuing to push and sticking in the head game.
Yeah. So if you look at the male side of CrossFit, the competitive side of it, there are no top level collegiate or professional athletes. There's no like Tommy Hackenbrook. I think by far it was the most accomplished collegiate athlete,
And he was the anomaly for a long time
he was
because
like
his size.
6'4".
And then Spencer Hendel.
Yep. So Spencer
Same
was
thing.
a baseball player.
But,
Yeah.
and they were like the two guys that
And Asia Bartow.
and Asia. Yeah. Incredible athletes and really tall. So as time went on, you start to notice, and people, you could definitely look and think about it now, but the programming plays a huge role. But a CrossFitter they all tend to look the same. The people that are the best, they're roughly the same height.
5'9", 185.
They're roughly the same weight. They're roughly the same width, shoulders, legs, everything.
They're optimized for the sport in a way.
Well, they're generalists. They're good at everything,
Yes.
great at nothing. That's the goal. And most of them played like a D2 or a D3 sport in college. And it wasn't because they were super athletic. It's just because they were a student of the game and they knew what was going on and they just wouldn't quit. And they gave a maximum effort at all times. So that was one of the things, like on the women's side, it was a little bit different. Give me some leeway, those listening. Male sports, I would say, at the collegiate level and professional level are far advanced and more established than women. So like the women's soccer team, like women's soccer in America for females is pretty new, like 20 years, whereas males is been going on since the beginning of time. Now, there were a ton of accomplished female athletes. There was a good many like former professional female athletes. But on the male side, it was guys that I would describe as overachievers, wouldn't quit, and just bullheaded. And like they let like little things didn't wreck them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't ruin them, but like they were, good at everything, great at nothing.
When you see the
outlift a runner, outrun a lifter, that's basically what they were.
When you see younger folks coming up now, currently in the sport, are they coming from a background of sports, or are they coming from, I'm going to train to do CrossFit?
They're coming from, I'm going to train to do CrossFit, which I think is a huge mistake.
Yep.
And a lot of people probably would hate to hear me say that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
But I've actually been saying that to parents since I was coaching. So now I mean, to be completely honest with you, I don't pay attention to it at all. I don't watch it. I don't follow people that are competing. I don't know who's competing. I don't know who new. I know who some of the up and comers are, because on social media and people I follow, I do see, who podiumed or who's going to the games, but I just really don't give a shit. And it's not because I don't love the sport. It's because I'm not doing it.
And there's a level of burnout.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like, when I was coaching and when I was like more competing, and when I went to the games, right before I went to the games, I stopped coaching because I was, in my mind, I wasn't the best coach I could be because I was tired. I was training so much every day. And also, if I was gone, I constantly had to have someone cover my classes. So I'm like, well, I'm the annoying person. It's gone all the time. So at that point, I stopped coaching for the most part, but I was there a lot. And I would have parents. We had young girls and boys at our gym that were there because the parents trained. So the kids started coming and they were coming to class, and I loved it. I'd have a class where I'm coaching. I got parents, I got kids, and not to toot my own horn, but that's what makes a good coach. It doesn't take a lot. You're adjusting here, and you make it work for everybody. But I would have parents come up and be like, what do we got to do? Like, what do we do for her? And I said, look at the whiteboard. There's no magic programming. Okay. If you can't, I'm like, if she's not doing that workout and getting the fastest time, lifting the most weight every time, why do we need to change anything? As far as, because at the time too, you had people that are barely regional level athletes. Those of you guys who are just getting into CrossFit, we don't have regionals anymore. So
yeah, the whole landscape's changed.
I'm dating myself, but you had people that were never, on their best day, or not a regional. Old regional was 60 athletes, male, female, like on their best day. But that was one of the things that made the community great. Was you had people. My absolute favorite thing about it was regional. Yeah, I loved going to regional.
Yeah, you had people that their goal in life, guys that played a sport or girls that played a sport in high school. Maybe didn't give it their all, maybe didn't have the discipline or the focus, or they weren't mentally mature enough to, really focus on what they're doing. And it's like, I got another bite of the apple here. I got another chance for greatness. And that's all they wanted, was just to make it to regionals. And
what I loved about that is because you have people coming into the sport that have a life. They're moms, dads, they have a job, so when real life's going on for 99% of the people out there, you don't have time to do two-a-days and put all this extra time and effort into every single detail, and I think that was what I miss about, and I'm sure, a lot of these qualifying, local competitions or things like that could still offer this. But for me, just through what I experienced and things I went to, I really loved regionals for the reason of it gave that competition to people that they would probably love to be able to take it all the way or go all the way. But because of a lot of factors in their life, that would never happen. There's no way. And they can still, though, put in time, effort, train, be strong, be healthy, be a mom, be a dad, or work at their, go to their job or be a CEO or whatever, and still go to regionals. And that competition in and of itself was like a mini games. That was the stage for so many people. And it wasn't just for the people competing, it was for the people spectating. It was like, once regionals started, people were pumped.
Yeah. And like you'd have 200, 300 people showing up to cheer on members of their gym. And what it really did, and it was kind of brilliant, was it created a culture and a community. And I say this all the time, you have to have two things to be successful. You have to have a culture and you have to have community. So CrossFit adopted the fitness culture. And then with the individual gyms, they created communities.
And that's what you were referring to earlier. I've been to multiple CrossFit gyms. you can tell by the programming pretty quick. You're like, high volume, jerking, twisting motion, not for me, but, warm up, core lift, cool down, all the things, mobility days. You're like, all right, this is awesome. And then you fall into a community. When you're referring to kids, I used one in Colorado. At one point, my daughter included, was one of like 4 car seat deals, hanging out on the sidelines. And somebody'd start crying and the coach would be like, yeah, no, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Rock the thing.
I've definitely coached classes with a baby on my
Little
chest.
Bjorn.
With the Bjorn, coaching a class with the mom. It's coming back from having a kid, can take class.
And it's awesome. And I think they cultivated it really well.
I think I took you off subject. We were talking about, about kids. And so you have like the answer to, like, you have parents like, oh, I want to, so you'll have girls that are, 10, 12, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16. They see Brooke. Brooke is gorgeous. Brooke has a great figure. She's a good looking girl.
Thanks.
You have girls that want to look like that. And that's a good thing. Because I'd rather listen to people dork out about working out than dork out about getting blackout drunk. Okay. I think it's a better alternative. And CrossFit, what the answer to that is, what should my child do? Your child should go play multiple sports.
This is what I told all parents.
Absolutely.
Get involved in activities and play sports. Go play soccer, go play track, run cross country.
Exactly. Because for me, I can understand why we've got, or we as if I still competing, how they've gotten to this place where now you've had so many kids that have just they've grown up in a CrossFit gym, right? They were coming in their car seat because mom and dad were training. And then as they got older, they were doing the kids class. They're doing all those things and they see these amazing, women and men and they want to do that. And I totally get it. And I think it's incredible. One of my favorite things about CrossFit is I really truly feel like it on its own was able to change opinions or perceptions of women that are strong.
Agreed. In conjunction with that same timeline
and without
of social media.
Without having to say it, you just knew it. That's what I loved about even when I was coaching, because I've always been very built genetically, big arms, right? And I've danced, and when I was dancing, it's like I knew all of the dance companies I could never dance for because of how I looked.
They would describe you as fat.
Yes, and I was just too much muscle, right? And I knew the ones that I could dance for. But in training, like in CrossFit, compared to, let's say, like bodybuilding, right? It's not objective in a way where it's like, we don't look at a person that comes into the gym and immediately start, critiquing. Well, some people do, but like critiquing things based off of like, what's their performance based off what they look like? Like it really is put up or shut up. And when a female and a mom, I think it's so amazing that you have moms coming in and they're showing their kids, boys, girls, what it is they can do. And if you have like a husband or a partner that's right there supporting you doing that too, that is how we make positive change. It's not by continuing to try and tell people like, strong is beautiful. Because that whole movement, like the strong is beautiful, that was going on when I was overdoing Wonder Woman. And I was like, that's bullshit, actually. Even being over there, it's like I was, oh man, I'm going to be very honest.
Send it.
That's what we're here for.
Sometimes I get myself in trouble.
That's right.
No, because I'm going to do a good job of getting me in trouble. I'm going to say some stuff that you want to say. I promise you. Get your stuff off your chest. I'm going to bring it home for us.
Yep.
I will tell a story that was a very hard thing for me to endure when I was overdoing the movie. I will say, so I was one of like 5 girls, which I still all talk to all of them, that we were cast Amazons, and all of us were kind of taken out of different industries that were some sort of sport or athletics. Like my friend Madeline, she was a Thai boxer. She's from Sweden. My friend Harry, who's actually a detective in Wales. She's from Wales. We've got a lot of different people that we were like kind of the core cast Amazons, and then all the other ones were extras, right? Just for bodies. I was and Harry, she was very built. Between her and I, we were for sure the 2 biggest, strong, built women on set. But I found out, when we were on our charter flight to Italy, I found out that there was just basically, including the director of the film, talking about how I was on steroids.
Ooh.
And, you know, it's like for me out there, I am so grateful for the opportunity that I had. And like, I always wanted to perform. And when I got the phone call to go audition for with Warner Brothers, I was like, no way. There's no way they're trying to call me. Why? I've done musical theater. I've sang and danced and done musical theater, but I've never done acting. I can get into the story of how they called me in the first place, but I got a phone call. I almost said no to doing the movie because once I found out they filmed in the UK and they didn't film in LA, because in my mind I was like, oh, yeah.
I'm here.
Be in LA and go train at some of the gyms, go see some people that I know. No. And I almost said no because it really disrupted my year, right? And at this point, it's like, that's what I trained for. That's who I was. I had gone through some ups and downs, and like, it was so much of my identity to be a games athlete, which I worked through that later on, because that should not have been the case, that was my only identity. But on the airplane, I've been out there for a very long time at this point, and we're going to Italy. And as we're getting there, it's like just to hear, like I'm on this, like there's women everywhere. Like, so you on the magazines and the articles and like all these like big titles, it's like female and strong is beautiful and Amazons. And I'm over there being like, because I'm so strong, I've got a whole group of people just talking shit about me because I look so much different than everybody else. And so I really had a really, really hard time. Lucky for me, though, my best friend, Gina Chancharulo, was with me at the time. So she had just gone through a divorce, and she came out and stayed a week with me. The last week we were in the UK, and then a week in Italy for that first week I was there. So as I was kind of working through some, not so positive thoughts, she was there to really help me kind of like, it doesn't matter. And, at that point, I had already heard all kinds of stuff online, on, comments, and they just trolls. Like it wasn't new, but it just sucked because it's like, I'm behind the curtain right now. And that's what I realized. And I remember after Wonder Woman, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I am never doing it again. And it wasn't until I was flying back out for the Justice League, which I was working with Zack Snyder. He is incredible. And I'm actually going to work with him in a few weeks from now. And that was who I was working with. And he completely changed my perspective on that sort of, on doing a movie. What it made me realize, which I just hadn't thought about it because I was probably so emotionally charged about the experience that I had, was I kind of lumped it all into one category, that it's all like that. But what I realized when I worked with Zach is it's not all like that. I mean, his production team was incredible. Not only did he and his whole team exercise with each other every morning, they'd be leaving the gym when I'd be getting there in the morning to go work out. It created a camaraderie or a community on set that was health focused. And
you're surrounded by like-minded people.
Yeah, and
working
I
for
didn't
like-minded
have that
people.
prior.
The steroid thing has always tickled me to death.
Which is funny.
In CrossFit. So,
however, I will say I don't know, because I don't know, but I do feel like if that was an issue or more of an issue, it's probably happening now.
Steroids?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you throw that much money. You throw that much money. But the problem I have with that stuff, like Matt Frazier, who's a very close friend of mine. Like Matt's been accused of being on steroids. It's like Matt doesn't look like he's on steroids.
Exactly. It's like, why is he the same size then as he's been?
Yeah.
Same muscle size, same weight, same size for years.
The thing with steroids give you a curve on a test. That's all it is. They're not going to turn a high school, athlete into, a D1 starter. They're not going to take a guy that was good enough to get to college. They're not going to get him drafted.
No.
All steroids do, and this is one of the things that like really pisses me off when like people that don't work out, or they go to the Gold's Gym and do curls and shit and sit around and take pictures, and they accuse people of being on steroids. It's like, number one, you fat ass. You've never worked hard a day in your life. All right. So you don't know what it takes to get here. You think that he works the same, he puts out the same amount of work that you do, but he takes steroids. And it's basically just a reflection of them being a piece of shit. So steroids allow you to put in more work. That's it. Your muscles heal faster. They don't just make you bigger. No. They don't make you stronger. They don't make you run faster. You have to bust your ass. Also, steroids, like anabolic steroids and stuff, aren't necessarily something that a games athlete is going to want to take.
No.
And every year they drug test people, and I will be the first to say that drug tests are incredibly easy to pass. But they publish a list of people that fail the drug test. And it's normally like back in the day when it was 60 males, 60 women, it was the lower
Barely
level.
Any.
And the funniest thing I ever saw was there was some chick from Europe that popped hot taking DECA.
Ooh,
which is an oil-based European steroid that like the West Germans used to take or the East Germans used to take. And like just the whole steroid thing just really irritates the shit out of me. Like you get this big by working out that hard. And that's one of the things about CrossFit that is pretty cool is that it's open source. So like in your peak, everyone knew what you were doing. You were posting your workouts online. You're posting clips and videos of you working out. And like you said, you quit coaching and they don't really have time to do anything. They're training, when you were getting ready for the games, you were training 2-3 times a day? Minimum 2 times a day.
Yeah.
And even on their off days, you were doing some form of active recovery.
It was typically 2 times a day. And
maybe some weightlifting in there too.
Yep.
Some Olympic lifting.
See, I think that going back to the wrestler statement, right? They're crazy. They're built for it. It's a mental thing. Those sitting on the couch or Cheeto fingers typing, hating because you're in the limelight, they want to find an excuse because they don't have the mentality that would ever allow them to arrive at that place of fitness or physique or ability or anything.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset.
No, definitely.
Also.
Well, and then also there's a huge like genetic footprint and there's a biological passport that are involved in that. And it's like, there's people, for those listening, I'm 5'10", 235 pounds, pretty strong dude. And people are like, man, like how do I get that big? And it's like, bro, I'm 45 and this is genetics. Like, or people will make a comment about like my calves and I feel like a cheese ball saying that. It's like,
you do have nice calves.
But it's genetic. I've never done a calf raise in my life. Now my brother's, I'm 5'10", Mitchell's 5'11", and Mitchell weighs 175 pounds. My brother's super wiry. I will outsprint my brother, and it's not even close, which is irrelevant at this stage in life. However, my brother will smoke my ass in a 5K or a mile or any form of distance stuff. So people need to take into consideration, like, what is the person's like genetic makeup? Like, it's like John Welborn. John Welborn played in the NFL for 10 years. He's 6'5", 315 pounds, and he's ripped. Like, hey man, how do I look like you? That's never going to happen. I'm not getting taller. I can't get tall. Now, if there was a story that would make you taller, I would take it.
Absolutely.
Without question.
Yeah, if there was one that would make my calves grow, I would take that one too.
But it's just genetics. Like there's a genetic thing. Like there are people that can run fast. There are people that can run distance longer. There's people with high VO2 maxes. There's people with low VO2 maxes.
My 23andMe, on one of the things it says, I am predisposed to have muscle mass that of an Olympic athlete.
Oh, shit.
Which Olympic sport?
It didn't say.
We need to look into that.
Yeah, we didn't say.
Email
them.
I
will say it's like, I mean, the thing is, like, no one can really surprise me with a comment or a mean comment. In fact, when people get creative, like they insult me in a creative way, I enjoy it. It's like, okay,
yeah,
something new.
So you never got to the point where you just stopped looking at the comments?
No, I did. I don't read comments out anymore.
I've heard that,
which is tough because then nowadays it's like, well, you need to read, you have to comment back, you need engagement, and that's the thing too. It's for me is like there are people obviously that are still competing and still doing, very active on social media. And I am trying to be active on social media. I'm on there, but for me, it's like, because I don't compete anymore. This is what I've realized. Like, because I don't compete, it is so much harder. Can we start over? I gained my platform because of just naturally. I focused on competition. I wanted to be better. I like being good at things. I've always played sports. I've always danced. And then just naturally, it just organically grew. I mean, I've been to CrossFit Games one time And it took a while before a lot of the girls that have been multiple times and still going even had the following close to what I had on social media. And I don't know if I was doing anything different, but I do know that I've been doing it for a long time. And so now when I look at like, how was it easier for me to be so active?
Answer. That's an easy answer.
And it's because when I was in a gym 24/7, when I was traveling, when I was training with people, it was so much easier to just get content. Plus, almost everywhere we were, there were cameras, people were taking pictures, people were taking videos.
People talking and, now it's posting,
like, I need to make my own content. I mean, my God.
So I would say the reason that your following grew was because like guys wanted to be with you, girls wanted to look like you. Like even at your peak, the most muscular you ever were, you were still incredibly feminine. You're a girl, you're blonde, you're good looking. Like there are some people that are predisposed to put on insane amounts of mass. Your mass is carried very proportionally throughout your body. So like it's are you willing to maximize your potential and not give a shit about the vanity?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's people that like, oh my God, I'm getting too big. It's like, well, hey man, like your body's like saying, feed me. Like this is what I'm good at. And people, if we walked into a gym, like say Trevor and I walked into a gym, and it's like, all right, Baker, you're going to create a workout, and Trevor, you're going to create a workout. I guarantee you one thing. Those workouts are going to be completely and totally different.
Drastically different.
Because the first thing I'm putting on the workout, the buy-in, is going to be something he can't do, which is going to be deadlift 550 or something.
Heavy.
Like I'm going to like, hey, you can't start till you do my buy-in. Like, but I think that, you know, you alluded to something. I need to get this off my chest.
Okay.
I owe a lot of where I am in life to CrossFit. So in December of 2010, I started a CrossFit apparel company called Tupood, which I sold, I think 3 or 4 years ago. Did great. It's great. Started with like $17,000. Tony would say it was less than that, but like we sold it for a good bit of money. And that was December 2010. January 2011, we started a drink company called Killcliff. And I did that for, let's say, 7-8 years. And like Brooke and I and a lot of other people timed the CrossFit space perfectly. We were in that space when it was the best that it ever will be.
It was good.
It was awesome. It was so much fun. The community and the culture were amazing. And as it grew, and this is going to be kind of like I learned some stuff through my involvement with CrossFit that when you start a company like Greg Glassman, I like Greg. I am grateful for what Greg did. But you take a guy that starts something and takes it to over 100 million in revenue. He was not capable of running that company at that level. That his skill set was far surpassed once they probably crossed 40 million. But he wouldn't let go of control. And he surrounded himself with yes men and people, some of the most mean-spirited assholes that I've ever interacted with. And they were yes men. And then things started to change. They started to make stupid changes and decisions, and they literally sucked all the sugar out of the Kool-Aid. So I watched CrossFit go from nothing to awesome, and then I watched a meteoric fall and crash.
That's why I actually stopped competing. So I had a cervical fusion, so I have a plate and 4 screws in my neck.
So, which is funny,
okay.
Yes.
And I saw that, and I was like, I sent you a text, and I was like, I'm sorry, where are you going? You said, I'm going to Stanford. This is you in Santa Cruz. Yeah, and I was like, where are you going?
And it was quick because...
It was like that day.
Yeah, because I got my scans, and it was when my chiropractor read them the day, it was like the day after the first event had been announced. Because I actually ended up, we won't need to go into the whole story as to, a lot of people might think like, well, why do you get it checked sooner? Well, for many good reasons.
Fear of the unknown. I'm fine.
Really, it was just like, I never did anything that actually made me think, I'm injured. Didn't fall, didn't trip, didn't drop a bar, nothing. I woke up. I was home for Christmas. Woke up, started to lock up, and I was in a lot of pain. And then I was seeing a chiropractor. This is where it is potentially scary. I was being adjusted 5 days a week and popping my neck. And I was still having so much pain. All the pain was down my arm. None of it was in my neck. I didn't do anything. Remember, I didn't do a handstand push-up and fall on my head. I didn't do anything to tell me this is where my injury is. I had all of it down, just nerve pain, but aching in my arm. And I was paying attention to my pain. I was paying attention. One, we have a very high pain tolerance.
Absolutely.
And also when you train so much years and daily of being comfortable when you're uncomfortable.
Well, that's the key to being good.
Yes. It can become very difficult to, know what kind of pain is good and what kind is something that you need to stop for.
Well, if you stop for every little thing, you'd be in the hospital constantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I looked at is I was actually working with someone at the time, only saw him a couple times, but nothing was happening with where I was getting therapy done. Their mind was, they did not know where the issue was. I had my chiropractor going back to the books. He's like trying to figure out what's going on because nothing was making sense of where I was having pain. And he said too, he's like, I think you may need to get an MRI. You might have like a bulge disc. Well, right after we talked about that, we're getting closer to the open starting. I went and saw a rolfer. They work with nervous pathways. And I hadn't seen, his name was Brian Johnson, I think, and he's in Santa Cruz. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. I'd seen him before for I had biceps tendon pain. And I went in, I kind of gave him the rundown of start to finish. I woke up at my parents' house, felt like this, blah, blah, blah. He immediately had me lay down. He starts feeling down my spine. And to him, my tissue felt like I may have pulled a muscle that connects my spinous processes together. And so he worked on me, no pain. Like I thought this is going to be really painful. He worked on me. That night was, no shit, the first night I slept in 2 months.
Oh, wow.
I woke up and I was like, well, so to me, I had scheduled an MRI. I called and canceled it because in my mind, if I had an injury and he worked on me, loosened up all the tissue, theoretically, I should be in more pain if what it's been doing is tightening down to protect the joint or protect the area. I felt better. He worked on me. I felt better.
Yeah, you assume you're in recovery.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, we can start ramping my training back up. We're getting close to the open. And at this point, I was the strongest I had ever been. I mean, not being able to compete in 2017 was so hard for me. I was power snatching 195. I was, front squatting 300 pounds. You were ready. I was ready.
Yeah.
And then I was not ready. So with, just getting straight to it, I basically went into the MRI. My chiropractor read it to me. Terrible news. Also, terrible bedside manner. And I did not have a very good attitude. And I've apologized so many times for telling him to fuck off. I did not want to take no for an answer. I had my chiropractor telling me Brooke, you have to think about your quality of life. And I'm thinking get the fuck out of here. Get it. What? You're a chiropractor. You don't read MRIs. Don't tell me how bad or good my scan is. And I found out later, he was calling my husband at the time, my friends, you cannot let her compete. You cannot let her train. That's how bad it was.
What was the diagnosis? I
had a severely herniated disc in C6, C7. So much so that, there was no discs left between my vertebrae, and my spinal cord had been pinched in half for who knows how long. Oof. At this point, I had so much bad, great English. I had really bad nerve damage. At this point, I now realize it was nerve damage, but I couldn't text. I couldn't use my thumb, especially if it was cold outside. If it was cold, I couldn't use my hands. I couldn't spray a hairspray bottle. I couldn't open, we had this old school pill bottle that you just squeeze it and the top pops off. Mm-hmm. That's what I used to gauge my strength after surgery. I would get it and I would try to open it and I couldn't squeeze it. It was bad. But I basically called my coaches. One of my coaches is a ears, nose, and throat surgeon. His name's Nick Sorrell, and he's from Louisiana. And I had sent my scans to him. he told me later, like he knew it was really bad. He knew there was nothing they could do, but he couldn't be the person to tell me that. And so he started calling to get me into, the best spine, like the spine guy, the best spine surgeon for me up in Stanford. And I worked with Dr. Ivan Chang, and he was the best, not only with his skill, but his bedside manner. And still to this day, he will reach out and check on me. And this was bad. I had surgery in 2017.
Because I remember you were like, I'm on the way to Stanford. And I was like, my brother is literally getting a fellowship there right now. Let me text him. And I was like, hey, Mitchell, a really, really good friend of mine is coming up there. I need you to go like check on her and just talk to her and let her know you're my brother, blah, 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 blah. Which then led into a lecture from him about the dangers of CrossFit. I was like, hey, man, not here for your lecture. He's like, no problem.
Just go see him.
Yeah. So, that was
deserve all the forgiveness, because what people don't think about is the mindset that got you to just the precipice of about to, kick off that event, and then to have that's a severe injury, very severe. To just wrap that up, you could have been one snatch away from like
Kevin Ogar.
Yeah.
Kevin Ogar dropped his snatch on his back, paralyzed himself. Yeah.
I mean,
I've had a lot of people. And since then, I've sent people to Dr. Chang, and he's actually he's moved and opened a practice, I think, in like Austin, Texas. But I had someone, even after I had surgery, as soon as I found out I couldn't compete anymore that season, oh man, was that a hard day. And Dr. Chang came in and he said, he was like, he puts my scan up and he goes, all right, do you see that? And I go, yeah. He goes, you see how there's no more room from your spinal cord? My disc was so herniated that if on one of the scans where you look at it from above, it looked like a jelly bean or like a kidney bean.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than that. It was completely bent in half and just pinched in half.
That's awful.
And I just lost it. And he said he took my scans to many other doctors in his office. Like, please tell me you can see something here that I'm not seeing, that I'm missing. So I do not have to tell this girl that she's done. So I basically, it took me a while to wrap my head, to be okay with it. I unfollowed everybody that did CrossFit because I couldn't see it. I couldn't open my phone and have to just kind of like see. It was the beginning of the season. My coaches told me, and Nick said, he's like, Brooke, as soon as you have surgery, you will feel so much better, because now you will be in a place where you're mending, right? Because up until surgery point, it was just wasted time. Whole season's going on. I was very involved, and I
looking
was very
at
sad.
Scores that you knew you would beat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so after surgery, I was able to, over time, really grow mentally and I found a way to look at the whole experience from a much better perspective. And, what I did for me that kind of helped me not hate it so much is just the thought process of like, I've been a coach. I have people that are brand new that look up to me for a lot of different reasons, for, want my information on like technique or skills or, whatever. And who really ever gets a second chance to experience firsts for a second time? And that's how I had to look at it, is like, I did have to accept the fact that I will never be the athlete that I was. And that was hard to accept because I was very good. I was very strong, and I'd put in years and I'd put in so much work. And I had to accept the fact that like, I can't keep comparing. As I started to be able to work out again, I was drastically different. So I kept comparing, I would do a deadlift and it's like, I couldn't hang from a pull-up bar. I couldn't hold my body weight on a pull-up bar. I couldn't pick up like 115 pounds off the ground. Not because I couldn't, because my hands couldn't even grab the bar. So I was doing hyperbaric chamber post-surgery to try and help with nerve regeneration. Dr. Chang prescribed that for me. It was really a Hail Mary, because with regenerating nerves, that is, it just takes time.
So hyperbaric chamber, for everybody that is listening, it's extreme oxygen, right? To force the healing process to move a little quicker.
Yeah. And that was kind of a Hail Mary of like, what can we do? Because in my mind, okay, I did surgery and now when can I start training for next year? Because I need to, make up lost time, basically. But I was doing that, and I really just had to think about it in a way of, now I can be even more relatable now I can understand people that support me or follow me even better, and they can relate to me even better, which makes me more valuable. It made me feel like, when you're good at a sport or whatever you're doing, and you have, we got people famous for the dumbest shit nowadays. So whatever it is, I had a hard time, not to get into it, but I also dealt with imposter syndrome at a certain point. But I had a hard time, knowing why. Why me? What do I bring to the table for them? How can they follow me, and I'm very grateful for that, because I had sponsors, and it feels really good to have a support team that's outside of your family in things that you're doing. But it made me feel really good to know that there was something that could make me even more relatable to people that are just starting, or to people that will continue to not be very good at certain things and constantly be trying to get their first ring muscle up, or constantly be trying to get, their first pull up. Because why? Because life. Because life is crazy and it's busy, and most people don't. 99.9% of people do not get the luxury of training that's your job. I go to the gym. Now, it's a difference, because for me, when you go to the gym, or at that time too, there's more stress put on you. Other people go to the gym and it's like, you relax, you release, you exercise, you work out, you feel good. Right. And so when I'm there, it's like, oh man, it's work. It's work. Well, and it's stressful. But
I think more importantly, it gives you a chance
not anymore.
To show people that you can overcome adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and then from there, I think that if you look at, there are a lot of people that were games athletes that didn't have the injury that you had, and just all of a sudden they got passed, and they're still trying to grind it out and get back there. And it's like, hey man, there's a lot more to life.
I will say, I do occasionally watch things or see, stuff that's going on. And I think to myself, because I don't watch it all the time, right?
I don't watch it at all.
The only time I see it is if I'm on Instagram, and there's certain people I still follow, obviously, that were friends of mine. And a thought I have regularly,
I can smash them.
No, is this, you're still doing that?
Oh my God, happened the other day.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was they were showing, I think it was the Rogue Invitational or something.
And I almost feel bad when I have that thought, but that's what I think. Oh man, you're still doing that? I'm over here trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but there's people that it's oh my God, that person's still alive.
No.
Or you're still at it. So they lowered the age of the Masters category, and it's oh my God, they're trying to compete as a Master now. What the, oh my, holy shit, man. There's so much more to life than that.
That pertains to so many communities, right? Yeah. So the military community, which turns into other services overseas and things like that. I'll see a guy, I'm like, you should have hung it up 10 years ago. But it's their identity. Yeah. They don't know how to do anything else. They don't know how to transition in the civilian world.
They don't know how to start writing another chapter.
Well, and they think they've been conditioned in a way, I think, not to overcome adversity, which is an awesome story, to find another gear in life and then become that inspirational story. But they get to a point where they're like, well, it's too late. This is all I've ever done. I'm no good at anything else. So even this company, to change careers completely and be successful in another realm is awesome. I love it. I think it's amazing.
And a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and at a certain point, in the CrossFit, realm, you're old, long in the tooth. You shouldn't be doing it because you'll get hurt. But when you're doing it in an operational sense, you could cost somebody their life because you're not keeping up.
You're not fast enough.
Even when you were 40, because you're 55 or 30 when you're 40,
But I think it's important that to take where people really find another gear, they can find that 6th and 7th gears when they can take what they learn from those, whether, your career or your previous military career, and apply, look at the whole thing, lay out their previous career, look at what's important, and how can they take those skills and transfer them to something else. And for you, it's entertaining people, and you're entertaining people still, but you're doing it in a different way. Or for you, it's organizational skills and how things flow and how to execute things. Hey, you're taking something from concept to execution, taking the ball and getting it across the goal line. Sure. And that's something in the civilian world, a lot of people don't have that. You were able to continue entertaining people. You just found a different way to do it. Yeah, and I'm sure I would be willing to bet that you are more relatable now than you were then.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I think there's also some Eckhart Tolle of like hanging up the ego of what you were over here. That was a different thing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you had ego, but you have an identity that you're associated with. And now you're like, okay, I'm a different thing. I can still be a fit, awesome human. I'm just doing a different thing with that.
Yeah. I mean, I've started a lot of businesses, not a lot, but a handful. I have a podcast. I started a clothing company. I helped start a skincare company. I worked very closely with Trifecta for a very long time from when they were first getting into CrossFit.
Trifecta is like pre-made meals.
Yes.
For those listening.
I don't work with them anymore. So,
No plug that way.
Just not trying to plug anything. I'm just telling you my story.
For them.
I don't have codes. I don't have codes for you. But, I always had a knack for short-term money is great. Especially when you're trying to be a professional CrossFitter, right? Because it takes a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time for work. Well, short-term money is great, but I was always someone who thought,
mailbox money's better.
I'm just more like, you may not be able to give me a lot right now or at all. I'll take equity in your company. I worked with Perkia, a jewelry company, and I had equity in that company, and I actually gave it back to her because for me, I was just so busy and I didn't want to keep it when I couldn't be more involved. And so we have a really great relationship, and I love Perkia, and I was there from, I love seeing female-owned businesses, and she was a mom, single mom, doing it out of her home.
That's
and
awesome.
She's done incredible. So I love stuff like that. I love being a part of, something that I can get behind. And I love seeing underdogs, and I love seeing people that are putting everything they have into a business. And if I can do anything to help you and be involved or talk about it, I'd love to do that. But I always kind of thought to myself, like, what do I need down the road? How can you benefit me, help me down the road? If you don't see a future with me down the road, then we're not working together. I never wanted to work with anybody who I didn't feel like I wanted them to see a bigger future for myself than I could see for myself.
Right.
And if they didn't have that and they weren't stoked to work with me and pumped to create with me, then I don't want to be around people that are just going to give me a little bit of money and tell me to post a thing and give me a code, but don't want to work with me because I am a visionary. I have a lot of ideas all the time.
You want partnerships, not sponsorships.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm now down to where I don't have a sponsorship. I think I do forget things, but I'm pretty sure I do not have one sponsor that I work with currently. I'm not proud of that. Over time I weeded out sponsors because, back in the day, you had people that just had like laundry lists of sponsors. And it's like
NASCAR.
And like for me getting into it, it's like, oh man, I mean, it's just one more person that needs something from you. And so that became very stressful for me because I was doing CrossFit to put my head down and grind and work. I wasn't trying to be an influencer. And, this is all pre-influencers. Now you have influencers. And that's one thing that gets difficult for me with I have influence, but like being an influencer, that's not a skill that I have. You have people that are, kids coming out of high school, just like making content and on their phone and doing this constantly. It's constantly a show. And for me, I never really did that or learned it. I just did what I did, and I was in the gym.
You always stayed organic.
Yeah.
You always did Brooke stuff.
And that's what's difficult now, not being in the gym or competing, because it's like, I'll be at my house. It's like, well, I should get on my story. I should get on Instagram. And I'm like, but what am I going to say? Hey guys, here I am again on the couch. I went for a little bit of a run, but couldn't show that to you because I was running and it was really hot and sweaty outside. And now I'm going to call my mom and, see what's for dinner.
So yeah,
that's my day.
The whole influencer model, that's a vanity metric, likes and follows and all that stuff. And it doesn't translate. So Web 2, which was, what could companies extract from their consumer? And so now you hear people talking about Web 3. And Web 3, what's happening with Web 3 is now the consumer is demanding that the businesses provide what's the value proposition. It's what type of interaction and positive interaction what value can you provide the consumer? So like I say this all the time, and we work with people that I don't think they're influencers, but they're subject matter experts or subject matter enthusiasts in their field. And I always kind of fall back on like, oh, so you're an Instagram influencer, like that's your job? That's not scalable.
No.
And that's not a long-standing full-time career. It's not a full-time job. It's a flash in the pan.
When people want that, and you have like little kids and high school kids that all they want to do is go viral, and there are people, clearly, we've seen it. We still see it every day. New people that were literally probably very cool, but don't really bring much to the table in terms of experience or value for people that you can teach or show or share your life experiences with. It really was just like you did a video. It was crazy funny. So many people loved it. And now you have, now you're on America's Got Talent or something.
Yeah. But ultimately, none of that means anything.
No. And it does happen. But the thing about it is like, we see it because we have so much, content and media being shoved down our throat 24/7, and everybody's on their phone on Instagram 24/7. That that's what they want. That's what they're going to do.
They think it's normal.
The percentage of people that are going to become, uber famous from a video that they made, that is not something that anyone can really recreate. Like it does happen, but it's not.
It's a statistical anomaly.
Yes.
So James Jean, who does archery trick shots for us, I posted a video of his on our outdoor page on November 27th. That video got 46 million views.
Holy shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was back in November. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Not for us, not for him.
Mm-hmm.
Still a great guy. Still does amazing stuff with his bow trick shots. We post his stuff all the time. But like he went viral on that video, and he's been on America's Got Talent and all that stuff before that.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's not a viable thing. It's a goal or a wish for people that involves timing that they have no control over and a lot of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean anything.
Nope.
And that's and we've been doing the Instagram thing, social media for a long time, and I'm telling you right now, social media sucks.
It does. It sucks.
It so
sucks.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's terrible. There's nothing I want to see.
It is so bad. There are valuable things in there. I watch tons of home organizing and or cleaning hacks or videos. I watch a lot of really great cooking stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I love watching all the Traeger stuff and whatever they're barbecuing or whatever people are doing. But other than that, I feel like we've seen it all.
Yeah,
and it's, which is scary because if people are like, oh, well, you haven't seen everything. I don't think I want to see what's coming up next.
No, I don't want to know what's next. I don't care. No. It's not going to be good. It's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's going to be really bad.
I get constantly irritated by it, and I've got children, and it influences them a great bit, and I try to throttle all that back and create reality. As an example, my son plays guitar. When he first started playing guitar, what does he do? He looks up 8-year-old's guitar, and he sees some kid just ripping on a guitar. He gets in, practices, does his thing, takes his lesson, and he gets discouraged. And he's like, well, I'm not that good. I go, that kid probably played since he was 4.
His dad's probably a professional musician.
Yeah, and he's been grinding, and now he has a skill. So it gives a false sense of like, I can do this. Also, when people just scroll and scroll and scroll and sit on the couch and do it, they're living vicariously through somebody else doing cool shit, and it appeals everything in our brain because we see it.
Appears to be cool shit. What appears to be cool shit.
True.
We've had conversations like that where, a lot of videos that we see, I bet if you were there and not watching the video, it would not seem nearly as cool.
Hell no.
It's a clip. You can
It's
do
a clip
amazing things with a camera and angles and lighting and music and slow-mo and all this stuff. And but real life, it's not like that. And you know what? I understand, and I'm very grateful for all the people that have followed me and supported me through the years. And it has given me, it's aided in me having opportunities, things like starting clothing, trying that out, doing skincare,
Getting on a movie.
Being in a movie. Yeah. Starting a training program with my friend Jacob Hutton. Naked training program. If you guys don't already follow it, you probably should check it out.
Naked training program.
Nakedtraining.app. But those are things, they are a product of all those people. And of course, my hard work, dedication, my knack for business, my creativity, obviously all the things that I have too. But I always would, I always found it funny when I would see, back in the day, I'd see some competitors that were kind of shitty towards their fans, and I just always thought to myself, we work out, we work out for time.
It's exercise.
Yeah. It's exercise. And it is amazing. We do a lot of crazy cool stuff, crazy cool in terms of just ability to move certain things. But we're cool because of them. Like if this is a sport, because of them.
You're nothing without them.
We're nothing without them.
Absolutely.
And so I'm extremely grateful for people that still follow me and have followed me for a very long time. And, I think that it's more people, if they haven't thought about it, I'm sure a lot of people that are influencers or, still competing CrossFit and have sponsors, have thought about it, but it is terrifying, and I talk about it with my, my parents sometimes. A while back, I called my dad and I was like, hey, I should ask you a question. So if everything falls apart for me and nobody likes me anymore, I have no popularity and everything's gone and nobody cares about me anymore, can I move home? And he said, yeah. And I was like, okay, full send. I'll try out, try everything. Because it really is like, you can land some great deals and still have influence and still be big. But for instance, like going through COVID, you had a lot of brands and companies that had to scale back on a lot of things because, shutdowns and, you have people that are not working with companies anymore. Happened to me, or sponsorships are changing. And plus then you have the whole, how sponsorship looks. And like you said, like Web 2, Web 3, that's changing. The thing about that is as fast as you got the paycheck, it can be gone just as fast. And that terrifies me, Well,
it's not a transferable skill.
Exactly. It's like you might.
Because beauty is fleeting.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize that, this is one of the things that I absolutely hate about social media. I call it chasing the dragon. So you'll get a girl. I would say it's like an invisible race. We're on an invisible race. Yeah, you get like females and they're like, oh, fishing or hunting. And they'll start fishing and they'll start taking photos with fish. And the clothes start coming off, or they get smaller and smaller. There's a little more skin here and a little more ass here. And then eventually it's a string thong. And it's just like, that ain't it. That ain't the answer, because one, the internet is forever. And eventually at some point, you're going to have to get a real job or start a company or do something, because, like a lot of those, CrossFitters, that was their life. And then they met a girl and they got engaged, and then she got pregnant and they had a kid, and that's cool. But kids are expensive. And like little supplement company sponsorships and stuff don't pay the bills. So like that it's not scalable. It won't last forever.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the things about social media that just drives me crazy, is that it's instantaneous gratification. And that's one of the things that we see with today's generation, is like they want stuff now. They don't want to wait.
Yeah, it's in any information, any news. I call it 30 seconds or less. You see something, you're like, well, that's fact. Swipe. Yeah. And you look at the next thing, I'm like, wait.
Well, you don't have to be. Yeah, you don't have to be right. You just got to be first now. Yeah. That's all that matters. Like, who's going to do the next stupid thing or the next dumb trick? Or it's absurd.
What do you got coming up? What are you excited about?
Well, let me think. Coming up, what I'm doing here right now, actually, I have a hard time saying I am doing this, because I do want to, but actually I'll just say it and I'll explain it. So I am getting into the tactical games.
All right.
Good for you. You're learning a new, no, that's good, because you're learning a new skill. Yes. That's cool. That's cool.
So, and here's the thing about it. I'm at a point where I actually don't even know. Like, if you ask me, like, when are you going to compete? I would tell you, well, I'd say two things. I'd say, one, I'm not going to compete until I can win. But really, for me, I got connected with Kirk Holmer, and I am working with him. This is the first time we were working together on marksmanship and just being a really good, shooter. And I've grown up around guns, at least thank God people aren't going to come for me on this podcast. But my family, lots of guns, hunting, big hunting family, ranching.
Are you a good shot?
Pretty good.
It's a female.
Yeah.
Female is really
They're always better.
So I'm working with Kirk, and I have, a lot of people ask me, I haven't told a lot of people because, again, the first thing I told Kirk, because he asked me, we were texting, he said, so when do you want, what competition are you wanting to do? And I said, well, I actually almost should read this text I sent him. It's probably pretty funny. And if it's only funny to me, or maybe I say some stuff that people might not like, you guys can keep it in or take it out. Okay. I texted Kirk. Me trying to explain what I was wanting out of this. Okay.
This is going to be good.
What's the objective? What were we working on here?
Initial contact.
This was when we were first talking.
Okay.
And I do have to scroll back a good amount. And I did not know how he was going to react.
So Kirk Homer, tactical athletes, 40 plus, just took first.
Yeah.
Just took first.
Works for Black Rifle.
Works for Black Rifle. We should
former Green Beret.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was a Green Beret. So.
Yep.
Yeah, with Evan and Scott Bollinger, who here at Black Rifle.
Okay, here it is. So, we were connected, and he gave me just a little bit of a brief history. Should I just read his history?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, in short, basically, he said, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you a tiny bit of an idea of who I am.
Here we go.
He said, I am a husband and father. I spent 22 years in the military, most in special forces. I have been instructing firearms and marksmanship for over 22 years now. I've competed in the tactical games since 2020 and have 7 podium finishes in the 3 different divisions. I have also coached a number of athletes in the tactical games who have been pretty serious competitors. My training philosophy is that everybody is different, therefore the way they need to learn is different. I help people find their personal right. Also, I am more of a resource than just a good shooting coach. I can help you learn quickly to compete at the highest level in the tactical games. This is what I said. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to make fun of it, but he said it so eloquently.
I can't do it.
I
can't do it.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I said,
no fault with that one.
I said, we could probably make fun of what I said. I said, I have some experience shooting pistols and rifles, but I am by no means intermediate advanced. I know I will be with little training. I'm a very fast learner. The competition side of it sounds very exciting to me, but also I just want to be very proficient in tactical training. I said, this might sound crazy, but I want to be extremely capable of protecting myself and my family if and when this country falls apart. And that's what I said.
I like
awesome.
it. I like that.
Approved.
And we talked about it.
We got to end it on that. And thanks for tuning in. Just kidding.
Yeah. That's, and we kind of chatted a little bit, but I let him know, I like competition. I am not the athlete that I was. Obviously, I'm 32. I'm turning 33 in August. I love staying fit. And without even really getting into it, I mentioned back a little bit ago about, CrossFit there was a point where they were going through some weird shit. And it was right after I was coming back from my spinal fusion. And I came out of that and I had some shoulder stuff. I had a lot of atrophy happen. I have tearing, whatever. And so I was planning on continuing to train and just get back where I was. But that's not what happened. I was dealing with my shoulders. I ended up trying to figure out what I was going to do. Am I going to get surgery? Am I going to do stem cells? And then it almost seemed like we didn't know if there was even going to be a season for 2019. So at that point, I'd been through a lot. I didn't have a lot of injuries from my competition. That was my one injury. And I do say, I think that my body stayed so healthy because of my background in dance and sports and things, but definitely dance.
Tons of mobility.
You do everything both sides. You're moving in all planes, right? You're not just going forward. You're not just running. You're not just going forward. You're doing everything. So I was very, very healthy. But I had kind of decided after the things I had been through, I was thinking, I want to be able to, I'm young. I want to be able to play new sports, try new activities, and learn new skills and be good at them. And I felt like at that point in my life, I didn't think that just potentially maybe getting back to the CrossFit games was worth the amount of time or years that I would be losing. I would lose, because even when I was competing, just stopping for a minute and having the realization of okay, wow, years are just going by like this because we do the same thing every day. My schedule, my entire year was the same every year. We knew when the season was. And then we had holidays. But outside of that, I was in a gym.
Yeah, but our lives,
for a
but every year, the season, it got longer, and then it became, there was no downtime. It was awesome. It was worth it. It was super cool.
But over time, it was changing. And so like with all things considered, you know, the ups and downs of the business side of CrossFit. And then I had been through some stuff for me to go into 2019 and everyone kind of feeling like, are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? Like, what's going on? I finally was like, well, I'm not going to compete this year because I just want to heal up and I don't want to push myself to potentially being, you know, injured when I was dealing with some shoulder stuff for a season that may not even happen. And then that just kind of rolled on into like, I just never, I didn't want to say I was done competing because that just feels, it's too official. I didn't want to like say it and then feel like I'm
coming out of retirement.
I shut it off for myself. But getting into the tactical games, like obviously I feel like I've got this new sort of motivation that I haven't had in a while. And this past year too, I've been dealing with a lot of like health stuff and been working with my, like doing blood work and my hormones and neurotransmitters. I've been kind of a mess. So I am in a much better place right now. But I haven't really been super motivated to be in the gym and kill myself, you know, because for me, it's like, why? Like, what am I doing it for? Yeah. When I was competing, that's why I did it. That's why I showed up every day. And that's why I worked so hard. That's why I did 2-a-days. That's why I suffered through things and I enjoyed it, even though I absolutely hated it, you know, but when you're not, for me, it was like, well, maybe it's that difficulty when someone's trying to transition from a career or, you know, one part of their life into something new. It can be very difficult to know, I think to allow yourself to do it. And 2, to be like a different version of you when you loved you when you were doing XYZ as well. You know, and I loved competing and I loved doing CrossFit and doing all that. But I really was at a point where I was like, I got to choose health over
vanity,
over or ego, the big game once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And now I'm like, you know, I've got some friends that have gotten into tactical games. I heard about it years ago. But
doesn't Jacob Hutton do it?
No, Hutton doesn't. Hepner. Yeah, and Jared Stevens just got into it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like you have this competitive nature or at your core, and now you have something new, so it's interesting, and it plays off of all the strengths that you've had through your career and otherwise, and you're the perfect fit for that. So I'm pumped.
But it's also super cool to learn new skills.
Exactly.
At the ripe old age of 32.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got one foot in the grave over here, folks. But no, it's super rad to learn new skills later in life.
And that's what I told Kirk. It's like, that is, you know, I'm not like itching at like chomping at the bit to like get back on the competition floor. Like, that's not why I'm doing it. I have been enjoying the fact, like, even when I watch some of the, you know, even getting all my gear, making sure I have everything, talking to Kirk and like stuff we did today, there's definitely a fire burning inside me that I think that, you know, maybe it won't be long from now that I'll be all in wanting to compete. But
before
really,
you go dumping a bunch of cash into gear, shoot me a text. Tell me what you need. Okay. I'll get it for you. It's a simple text message for me. Like,
I have a. It's an expensive hobby, and I am into it.
Yeah. Do you have a gun?
Yes.
What do you have?
I got Cobalt Kinetics Gen 1 rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Shot that today for the first time. I have my concealed carry. Am I allowed to say that on here?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yes.
Well, I have so I got a SIG 365 XL.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Great pistol. And then I just got, before we drove up here, the SIG 320 X5.
Do you have a shotgun? You don't use shotguns in that?
You don't use them in that, but we do have shotguns at home. I do love shooting skeet. Okay. That is fun.
I'll get you a shotgun. I'll get you a shotgun for 3-gun, because that's another thing you want to look into. Like
3-gun. Yeah.
So if you're it's just getting proficient with any firearm, regardless of what it is it will transfer. I
mean, today we were working. We zeroed in my optic. So that was really fun for me to like learn all that too. And
what's your optic? What are you shooting?
I got the, I think it's like a newer version of it, but the Strike, Vortex Strike Eagle first focal plane.
You're going to
help me there too?
We're going to have a replacement there within the week. No offense, but like I'm going to get you a good optic. I think the optic's probably one of the most important things.
Well, that's something that Kirk kind of told me. He said, at a certain point, you'll hear a lot of guys will tell you, like, spend your money on the glass and not on the gun.
The one thing I cannot help you with is ammo. I can't even help myself with ammo.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
I know
a lot of guys. But that's tough. But yeah, like any gear you need, any stuff like that, like holsters.
Yeah.
Just shoot me a text. Be like, hey, this is what I need.
Kirk made my belt today before we came over here. Got my first belt.
Made it from hand, from scratch?
He sewed it.
Kirk, such a wonderful person.
This is just the underbelt.
Yeah. Gotcha. So for those, everyone knows underbelt, overbelt. So she's putting her other belt on the outside. Velcro keeps it in place when you're running around doing awesome shit.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
But yeah, I am so far really enjoying. I mean, I've only done one day.
Well, it's just so awesome. So when you start training, and I know you're going to compete. I think that what I do is I tread lightly with my claims when I talk to people, because it's not just because I've come from, competing in CrossFit. So I don't want to just jump in or tell people like, oh yeah, I'm getting into tactical games. Watch out. But I do, in fact, want that to be the effect, and not because I'm telling people, but because they're watching me out there competing. Yeah. And when I'm ready to do that and show up, I will compete. If I'm not just going to compete to compete. I want the skills. Like, that excites me. Watching some of the videos, or just watching Kirk doing all of the mag changes. And it's like art to me. Like, I love movement. That's one thing. I think dance, and my whole background in dance aided me helped me a ton in being good at CrossFit. I mean, I didn't have an Olympic lifting coach. I went to a CrossFit class. They kind of taught you how to snatch, and then I just watched videos, and that's how I learned. Mm-hmm. And I think that I look at movement in a gym, or people exercising, or like jujitsu. I mean, if my shoulders were healthier, I would love to get into doing like jujitsu and things like that. But it would not be smart for me. But it's such a dance. Like, it's like choreography. Watching you guys be so proficient and fast and smooth.
100% choreography.
Yeah.
And let me say this: watching guys like Kevin or Kurt or Evan shoot, that. Years, decades of repetition over and over and over and over and over. So my one piece of advice on that, do it right and do it slowly, and the speed will come. Because everyone, when they start getting into that stuff, they want to look super cool and fast and plow, bang, 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 trade mags real quick and do all these like high speed drills and shit. No, don't do that. Do it slow, over and over. Do it correctly, rep after rep after rep, correctly. The speed will come.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think you'll compete, and the reason why I competed, I worked overseas, slung guns for a living, that was my deal, is because you can train, you can shoot, you can go head to head, but until you're actually competing, and that buzzer becomes the energy that you're feeling, like all of a sudden the timer's about to go off and you're like, oh, I got that little itch.
Oh, yeah.
It's about to go down. And it's different than just running the drills, with Kirk on the range. So you want that stress. I like that stress because I want to see what's going to happen, whether your intent is to protect your family so that you can make sure that you can skin that smoke wagon and dump some dude on your porch that's breaking in your house or fucking with your family. You got to prove it in competition to make sure that you can do it under real life stress. And that's why I love it.
Yeah, and also like when you're new to guns and stuff, like, carrying around and stuff, like carry the gun.
Yeah.
Like literally carry the gun. Like you got to get comfortable with the tool, having it on your hip and stuff. And it's the law of 10,000 reps, like to be an expert, you got to do something 10,000 times.
Kirk's going to tell you, but you got to dry fire.
We talked about that.
Day.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Doing dry fire. And we also talked to him about, an idea of like, what should this look like daily, like training wise. And so what we're starting at is 20 minutes a day of doing dry fire and doing like even just, lifting my rifle up to position. up into my work zone or whatever. Workspace. Over and over and over again. And then he said 20 minutes because it's very hard to have the amount of focus that you need for much longer than that. So I'm starting there, 20 minutes a day, dry fire, practicing all the
quality reps.
Yeah.
It's just like CrossFit. Do it right. You know?
I will tell you, it's not going to keep me from competing in the tactical games, but it would make me want to not compete in the tactical games because I just don't want to be just another CrossFitter switching over to a new sport.
Yeah, but you've been out of the space for so, like, I think people look at you differently. I don't think they're like, oh yeah, she was a CrossFitter. It's like, no, it's Brooke.
Yeah.
It's Brooke. Yeah. That's how Melissa, my girlfriend's a huge fan. Like, I'm a huge fan. We've been friends a long time. But like, I don't view you as that. I view that's part of your past.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't look at Kevin as a PJ. Like, Kevin's a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, oh yeah, he's a PJ. It's like, yeah, it was a cool thing he did, but Kevin's a good dude and Kevin's a good guy. And I don't think you have to worry about that. I promise. That's not something you need to concern yourself. Don't ever let a hypothesis get in the way of doing something.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea if someone's going to say that. No one's going to say that. And if they do, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
But conversely, it's the same thing. I mean, well, I'm a fag, former action guy. Not to be offensive to anybody.
Right.
But that's saying like, oh, that fag is 41 and trying to get in good enough shape to go compete.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well.
But other than that, I am filming a movie in a couple weeks. Not the whole movie. In fact, people ask me, what is it? What are you doing? It's like, well, I know it's not the answer that you want, but I don't even really know. I know that I've sent my measurements. I know that I am shooting for 2 days, and I know that I am a gladiator of some sort.
Hell yeah.
I don't think that we could even try and compare even what we think gladiator means, because all these different sci-fi movies or things, action, I mean, it really could be anything. But I am doing that 2-day shoot so far, which is exciting. It's nothing big, but I'm going to work with Zack Snyder again. So I'm excited about that because I haven't been doing movies. Other than that, I am, just working a ton with naked training. And we just finished our second retreat, which was so fun. We had a girl over from West Germany. We had a guy over from Spain. And it was an incredible experience, and we're looking forward to doing our next one. And other than that, I actually have started working with, I partnered with a few people, and we have launched Regenerative Pastures, and really focusing on. And this is a huge passion project of mine. Evan DeMarco, AJ Richards, if any of you guys know those names, but AJ, a couple years ago, brought this to me. He's from Southern Utah, just like me. His family they settled the area just like mine, and they've been ranching and running cows for a very, very long time. And so we were, he kind of talked to me about regenerative ranching and going down the rabbit hole of that. And it kind of was on the back burner, and he found, a couple people that are incredible partners and really got behind the mission. And the mission is to change, make some big changes. One primarily being that we have more than enough food to feed people. Getting more people to eat regionally, keep more ranches in business, and get more people to stop ordering beef from overseas. There are a lot of subscription models for food. I mean, all kinds, whether it's ordering from someone who you pick, they send you all the ingredients, they send you the recipe and you make it, or you get a pre-made thing, or they're frozen, or they're never frozen, or whatever it is. But they also have a lot of different options for meat, right? And a lot of those, they get their beef from New Zealand, from, other countries, but not from here. And we have so many ranchers that deserve money. They deserve business instead of what's going on right now with ranches. And my dad has retired from construction, and we ranch. And that way of life has always been mean, that's what it's been for me my whole life. It's been ingrained in me. And if I can do anything in helping change the way, just the market functions with the price of beef, how we really can keep more families that have like generations and generations of ranching, that you're seeing these ranches just closing, shutting down. And a lot of reasons that I am not qualified or educated enough to really explain to anyone on this podcast. But with regenerative pastures, a big push is there's a whole education side. So people that are ranching that maybe aren't following a regenerative protocol, it is more work. But the positive about that is getting the land to basically regenerate faster. So you're doing things healthy. It's creating healthy soil. It's creating more of a healthy product for you to eat. And it just takes a little bit more time. So the more we can get, ranchers to be willing to adopt some of these practices, then within that, them also being able to create business through regen, through their beef being offered in our subscription model, but also, it's guaranteed money. Anyone who is familiar with taking a cow or whatever animal to a butcher, I mean, the price is constantly going up and down, and you have a middleman. The middleman is the person that owns the processing facility. They're going to charge you whatever they want to charge you. Not only that, there's not great quality control. I mean, I'm sure there are some butchers that there is, but what we've experienced and my dad's experienced, even just with like elk here out in Utah, a lot of places are shutting down. You have to drive further to go and take your animal in to get it processed so you can, people that do hunt or do cows to feed themselves versus going to a grocery store. But it's difficult. And with that, it really, ranchers, if you can even just imagine, or you guys know, so much work. I mean, the amount of money they can make off of their product is so much less than what it should be. And a big goal for us is being able to change that, because having more control, owning processing plants. So there's not a middleman where a rancher's going to take their beef there.
There's less waste.
Less waste, guaranteed business. Mm-hmm. And we're just starting out, but I'm very excited about it.
I love this.
Is new.
I love this. I live next to, in Colorado, before I moved, I lived next to a ranch exactly like that. And one of my training partners in jiu-jitsu worked there. He was working there to learn how to do it, to open his own.
What ranch? Where in Colorado?
Colorado Springs.
Okay.
It was off of 83.
Okay.
Anyways, they used the practice of rotating the land and rotating the cat. And it was more work. It was more intensive, but it was able to allow the land to feed the animal more effectively. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a higher quality of beef too. So like Mountain Primal in Basalt, Colorado, that's what they do. So yeah, it's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, and obviously it is tough in terms of, if people are really used to just eating hamburger or steak, whatever, from the grocery store or whatever it is, that has tons of marbling or has definitely used different steroids or things
or finished on feedlots instead of finished in pastures.
Yes, finished on feedlots and all that. It is different to people experience it differently, but eating grass-fed, free-range, really healthy, good meat tastes different.
Eat it once.
Yep.
Eat it once.
The taste and quality.
Eat it one time, buy an expensive piece of meat from a local butcher shop or a local rancher, and I promise you won't be shopping at Piggly Wiggly anymore for your steaks.
Yeah.
I mean, we experienced it last night, even though Jericho did a great job cooking them.
Those were rough,
things,
but the meat was
I guess for me, that's the newest thing that I'm doing, and it's just starting out. And I'm just as motivated for that as I am about getting into the tactical games.
Well, that's awesome.
So,
I really appreciate you coming out, especially after a long ass training day. It is actually, in fact, pretty late in the day.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram
which we talked shit about earlier.
At Brooke Ence.
Yeah.
You can. I'm mostly, I guess, on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel. I'm getting it going again. I moved from sold my house in California, moved back to Utah, and I took a break from doing content for YouTube because got to find a new videographer. But it's just my name on YouTube as well, and then It Makes Ence. It's a hashtag. You can type that in there. And other than that, I have a podcast, not for everybody. Just going to like put that out there. Not for everybody. People tend to get offended pretty easily. And it's called Between the Reps with Brooke and Gina. And we've been doing it for a long time now. In fact, I can't even believe we're still doing it. We just talk about anything and everything. It really is a very casual conversation, super honest. And there is no topic that we won't touch on. Oh, sorry. We stay away from anything that's going to get people riled up for no reason in particular. We don't do politics. Okay. That's pretty much it.
Right. Politics.
Cause it's just no point. We're not the type of people you want to get political information from,
right?
But we do talk about a lot of topics that can be very taboo for women, things that that we experience. We usually start out the podcast by catching up with each other because I don't live in California anymore and talking about like different experiences, maybe embarrassing ones that you wouldn't really share with a lot of people. Well, me and Gina share everything. In fact, I don't know why this is the podcast that came to mind, but, I told the story on a past podcast about how I came back from Mexico and I shit my pants in the Museum of Natural History. So that happened.
Was there coffee involved?
And I think, and then the last podcast I just did with Gina, she was just in New Orleans and they were trying to fly home. They were there for a friend's birthday and they got stuck in Dallas. American Airlines. They're the absolute worst.
They're terrible.
Terrible. Anyways, they made the best of it. They went to dinner and then Gina let me know that they went and had Indian food. She never had Indian food before. And she was up all night on the toilet. And she said, she will never have Indian food again. So she told that story as well. Some people might be like, that is so disgusting and not ladylike. And that could be true. But all we're talking about is real life stuff that we're just experienced or we are going to experience. And then we go back and forth. And not only that, but she is 52. And so we have this age difference where it's very fun because there's things that she's gone through that I haven't, that we have, she warns me about, she talks to me about certain things like, don't do that, do this, wear sunscreen, put a hat on, don't go out in the sun without a hat on. And I do not know how we're still doing it. I really don't. And
what's the name of it? Between the Reps?
Between the Reps. And we have been doing it for 3 years now, one episode a week. And it is very it's tough. And I don't live there anymore. So we've been doing all these ones on Zoom lately. And we just make it work because people really love it. Like we have listeners that email in all the time. And that's what reminds us why we're still doing it. And that's why we still do it.
Brooke Ence on Instagram. Hashtag is It Makes Sense. Between the Reps podcast.
Nakedtraining.app.
Nakedtraining.app.
And you guys, check out Regenerative Pastures because we're literally changing the world, not only for, the ranchers and farmers that deserve, a great financial situation or consistent good finances, but also
higher quality meat. And
then working on creating more healthy soil. And hopefully in the areas of the United States that have been ruined by, trying to mass produce.
Well, thank you. And thank you ahead of time for the shit story that I'm going to listen to tonight.
Right.
Well, there's some good ones in there.
It's in my wheelhouse.